the perfect home is one of the biggest investments most people will make. What if you go online and you find the perfect home and is hiding thousands of dollars of repairs hidden behind the walls, floors, and roof?
Today we're talking with a professional home inspector, Joseph Lang with Pillar to Post. We're talking about the biggest red flags buyers and sellers should know before entering escrow, the most expensive issues homeowners overlook, and the biggest inspection mistakes that could cost you big here in today's Southern California market.
I'm Isabel Machrone.
And I'm Rosa Ortiz.
We're real estate professionals in Southern California.
And each week we break down what sellers and buyers really need to know right now.
This is Let's Talk SoCal Real Estate.
Today we're talking home inspections, and I'm happy to have you here because you are one of my preferred home inspectors. You do an amazing job, and my clients are always happy with your services. Can you tell us a little bit about you and your company?
Yeah, sure. Joseph Lang with Pillar to Post Home Inspectors. I've personally been inspecting for 21 years, and about half of that time I've operated a team of inspectors, and it's always been here in the Inland Empire. And yeah, I just enjoy doing inspections and helping people through the home buying process.
Awesome. And 21 years, that's a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mainly residential inspections?
Yes, mainly residential. I do some commercial as well, but 98% is residential home inspections.
Okay. What cities?
I do travel out to the LA area, high desert area, out by like Moreno Valley, Temecula, Beach City. So I mainly market in the local Inland Empire area, but I do go out farther when my agents go out that far.
What are the top 3 issues buyers should never ignore, even if the home looks beautiful?
Question. Yes. Yeah. Anything to do with the roof. Your roof is your first line of defense against water intrusion. So any roof issue, you don't want to ignore. Leaks. Leaks sometimes start off very small and can be not that big a deal, but if you let them go and you don't think they're going to become a big deal, that's when they usually do. So take care of leaks, even if they're not a big deal. And then nowadays, it's sewer issues. Sewer cameras are becoming more popular because the technology has become easier to access. And even the cameras from 6 years ago are so much clearer than nowadays than they were 6 years ago. So sewer cameras, just grease and all that stuff that gets in the lines, tree roots. You don't want to let that stuff go because...
And I love that these tools are available because I've been in the business 21 years and gone through so many inspections and never did sewer inspections before.
Absolutely. Yep. Same here. Same here. It is a relatively newer add-on that inspectors are doing.
And what are the biggest red flags that you often see during a home inspection?
Yeah. So just some things that would kind of alert you would be any stains in the house. It got there by some reason. Usually it's a leak. So if you see a stain on a ceiling or a stain on a baseboard or around a window, that is alerting you that at some point something happened there. Also, if as you're walking up to a house, if you see something from the roof, that's usually a bigger issue because once you get on the roof, it usually is more than that.
I mean, everything is important, right? The biggest worry or concern for buyers is always roof and plumbing and electrical. But everything matters. And can you tell us a little bit about the most costly expense that you see out there?
Yeah, generally your costlier items are going to be the roof, AC or heating systems, and electrical systems sometimes. It depends on what the electrical issue is. But yeah, AC and heating obviously are expensive to replace if it needs to be replaced. If it just needs to be repaired, okay, it may not be that big a deal. Same thing with a roof, actually. It may not be a huge deal to repair it, but if it's a bigger issue and it needs to be replaced, now you're talking about a much higher cost. Same thing with electrical, which usually will only run into issues with an older house and this is where it gets a little tricky in terms of a home inspection. We're not there to upgrade the house, but if it's an old house, the electrical, it's just not equipped to deal with today's usage.
And also as realtors, we are required to do our visual inspection. So I do look out for my buyers. I look for any visual stains or any concern, anything that I feel that needs to be addressed. I always tell my inspectors, can you look at this with that peace of mind of having a home inspector dig into it? Then that's where we discover anything that's, serious or that needs to be repaired.
Exactly. Like I have the tools like a moisture meter, an infrared camera to see, is it currently leaking? Is it currently have moisture in the wall? So exactly. I have those tools to go from there, but those would be red flags that something might be happening.
And I always do recommend those tools that you have, like the cameras to inspect the sewers, the infrared to inspect inside the walls. So that's awesome that you do all that. What have you seen that's been like a deal breaker in a home inspection?
So the bigger issues that can come up are like maybe needing a major roof repair, or something that's a high cost item. It's an old AC unit and it doesn't work. Stuff that costs uh, higher items, electrical, sometimes in older houses gets into some electrical issues. Those can cause those what you would call deal breaking issues. But I would also say, of course, nothing has to be a deal breaker because hopefully it can be negotiated. So, and
Yes,
obviously
and
I don't
most
do
of the
that
time,
part. That's where your expertise comes in.
yes.
So hopefully nothing would have to be a deal breaker.
Yeah, most of the time we do try to salvage the deal by negotiating. It just makes sense for them to fix it or give a credit. When we're getting ready to do the home inspection, we set the appointment and coordinate with the sellers, the buyers, and the realtors to do that home inspection. I always set an expectation. Sometimes the buyers want to be there, sometimes they don't. How can we better prepare the buyers on what to expect?
Yes, this is also a great question. With that is telling them that the home inspector will find items. That
Yeah.
is, they need to know. I have done inspections, and it's not a lot, but you see the look in their eyes as I'm going over the report, and they feel like their dream house isn't a dream anymore. And it's okay. No, it's okay. We're gonna find items. So letting them know the inspector is going to go through their house. It's a lot of different components within a house. They will find items. That's normal. But if it's big enough, we'll address it. And so that way, as I'm going over things, they expect it. Oh, good. He found this. That's what I expected things. And I think that takes the weight off of the buyers so that they don't think that I will not go in there and not find anything.
We do that. We set those expectations and let them know that that's your job, is to find something. And every home is going to have something to be repaired, even the new construction. You've done home inspections for my new construction buyers and you've found items to fix. So there's no perfect home.
Exactly. Absolutely. And you can come to my home as a home inspector, and there is stuff that is always going to need to be taken care of and done and all that. So
So
it's
part
it's a
of being a
normal item.
homeowner is just maintenance.
But
That's
that's the
exactly right.
whole purpose of the inspection, to reveal any hidden issues that the house might have that you can't see with the naked eye. So you know the condition of your house that you're purchasing ahead of time.
Sometimes the health and safety concerns are very easy to do. Very simple smoke alarms, carbon monoxide alarms, but you just want them done because they're safety items.
They're part of California compliance to have
Yeah.
smoke
So smoking,
detectors.
yes, smoking carbon monoxide. There's very few things, like you said, that actually have to be done during a real estate transaction. But smoke and carbon monoxide alarms, they do have to be brought up to the current standard when during well, not during the home inspection, but during the real estate process.
How often do flipped homes or newly renovated homes hide problems that buyers don't see at first glance?
I would say often. What happens with a flipped home is it's usually done quickly. And I'm not even saying that it was done badly necessarily, because I've done some that are done very well, but it's just they're done quickly, and so things can get overlooked. And so usually, yeah, it looks nice. What you find with flipped homes is even if it looks really good and everything on the inside is good, if it happens to be an older house, no one ever went in the crawl space and looked in there. And then I might see a leak or see something wrong because like no one goes to the crawl space. I always kind of find that funny, but so they might have remodeled everything. So just sometimes things get overlooked or maybe don't get done quite right because of the time frame that they're working on. And so we can come in and just check those items. Sometimes a little leak is common. So even though, yes, it may look great, it still takes the same amount to inspect as any other home, because you just have to take that time to check everything.
What should a buyer look out for when hiring an inspector? I recommend, and usually they take my recommendation, and we use only professional, credentialed, experienced inspectors. But can you state what they should look for in an inspector?
Yeah, there's no licensing for home inspectors in California. So you can't just go to a California website and find a licensed home inspector. There's no such thing, doesn't exist. There are some home inspector associations that you would want your home inspector to be a part of. There's the International Association of Certified Home Inspectors. There's the American Society of Home Inspectors, and there's the California Real Estate Inspector Association. And those are the three main ones you would want your inspector to be a part of, because you know that they use a standard of practice, and they have minimum requirements, and they verify who the person is, and they verify the training. So those are excellent. I do believe, having been in the business a long time and having trained a lot of inspectors, experience does matter. And I know we all have to start somewhere, but if someone's not working under someone and maybe 5 years or less experience, you just have to be careful on that, because there's nice train an inspector. I send them to a training school, which is usually online. Unfortunately, I wish they were in person nowadays. They're not. And there's only so much you can train on, and then there's a lot you have to learn in the field. And there's so many variances of stuff, and that's why I'm there to guide.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the main things to look at. And then to go a little further, you can go to their websites and look up names and cities to see if they're listed on there.
That's great information. I mean, you have an amazing website where you break down the different types of inspections and what it covers. And then I think you're also either on Yelp or Google, but those are all great ways to see what kind of experience or what kind of feedback or testimonials you have. But the association ones are new to me. That's good to know of something like that and have accountability.
Right. And Google reviews are very good. My understanding, you cannot pay for them. You can't modify them. So they tend to be the more straightforward reviews.
What do you think about having a seller home inspection?
We do them. We do home inspections before it goes on the market. We don't do a ton of them. Believe it or not, in Northern California, it's actually the norm. So in Northern California, it's the norm to do the home inspection before you list it. But
I
here
like that.
down is, yeah, there's some Pillar to Post is a franchise, and we have franchisees up there, and that's their norm in that area. But yes, down here, it's not as common as all. I think it's a good idea, especially if it happens to be someone who inherited a home or didn't live in the home, where they really don't know the condition of the home. That's very valuable in those situations. And if someone isn't familiar with their home, they haven't looked at their roof in 15, 20 years, they haven't had their AC or heat serviced, at least get those big items serviced or looked at to avoid those costly items. And once again, if it's an old house and has a crawl space, man, someone should really go into the crawl space and at least look for something out of the ordinary.
Yeah, I've seen Joseph going to crawl spaces. It's pretty cool. He puts on a whole suit. I've seen a very narrow crawl space where you just went in there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know you could fit in there. But good to
Yeah.
know that you're willing to do all that for the customers. And as far as sellers doing home inspections, I think that like there's a lot of homeowners that don't have the time to do maintenance to their homes or are not aware of a lot of things that they need to maintain. When they do get these home inspections, they're surprised instead of in the middle of escrow.
Involved, and you're trying to get things done. Yes, if they could avoid that ahead of time, it's always better.
What are the key things that you inspect?
So it's always going to be the foundation. Now, a lot of newer homes are on a concrete slab, so you can't literally see the foundation, but you have to use clues as to, is there abnormal cracking or different things that might be something to do with the foundation. If it's an older house, and you can crawl underneath it and see it. Foundation is obviously extremely important. It's holding up the house. And then the next, like we talked about, is the roof. And the roof and going in the attic. Going into the attic shows you what's happening directly underneath the roof. So
Yes.
that's very important. Electrical, because any electrical that's bad enough can always cause a fire or cause a problem. Hopefully it doesn't, nothing like that, but it always could. And electrical is probably the least known about a house, even when it comes to contractors and everyone. It's the most complicated, and it can shock you and all that stuff. So main electrical and electrical within a house, and then plumbing. Because once again, plumbing, you don't want leaks, you don't want water getting into your drywall and your carpet and your ceilings and floors and all that. So plumbing and looking at leaks are also extremely important. Those are your major components. And then just within rooms, you've just got the doors and the windows, and you've got the kitchen appliances we go through. Those can add up if they're, not taken care of. Those
And
are
you
the
do it
major.
swimming pools too, right?
We do. Now, they don't have to be inspected, but yes, we personally do inspect pools and spas. And one thing that's not known is that even if an inspector does not inspect a pool, California passed Senate Bill 442, which is the Pool Safety Act. I believe it was 2017. And a home inspector has to report on the safety items of a pool, even if they don't inspect it. So you have safety gates and alarms on doors and different items that They just need to make the homeowner aware of the bill doesn't say anything has to be done, but they do have to just be alerted to if it meets the current standard on pool safety. Yeah, there's 6 items, and it would take a whole long time to go through all of them. But yeah, they have gates and fences and self-closing doors on the fences. That one interesting thing I do run into is gate has to be the pool fence has to be 5 feet tall, but we're the most strict in the country. So you can go to Amazon and online and buy them. And a lot of times they're 4 feet tall because most of the country only has to be 4 feet tall. I always know they bought it online if they're 4.
Are you saying that there has to be a fence around the pool?
The Senate bill states you actually have to isolate the pool from the house nowadays. It used to be the side gates on either side of the house was acting as your pool gate. Those don't count anymore technically. It has to be has to separate the pool from the house. Even though even within that, there's 6 different things to choose from, and you're supposed to choose 2 of them. So there's like a fence or a gate. Alarms nowadays you can put in a pool that would sound if someone went in the pool. It would alert you inside the house. There's audible alarms on doors with direct access to the house. So, if you have a sliding door and a little kid opens it, you would at least be alerted with the sound that someone went outside. And there are actually pool covers that can hold a certain amount of weight. I still haven't seen one yet, and I've been doing this a long time, but they do have them where certain pool covers that would also be allowable. And so you're supposed to have two of those items, and that's for a new build. But we would let's just say it's an old pool and they just have the side gates. We just have to let them know, hey, nowadays it's stricter. They would want those items I just told you. But once again, it doesn't say that it has to be done. But you do
So
have
you're
to
making those
notify them.
suggestions. It's
Yeah,
not a
it's
deal
just
breaker.
right. I think the purpose is they want people to have the knowledge just to know that it's preventable and they can do things to make it safer.
Can you run us through how long a home inspection takes and how you review the home inspection with the buyers?
Yeah, a typical home inspection is somewhere between 2 and 3 hours, depending on how big it is. Is there a crawl space? How old it is? What condition it is? So somewhere around 2 to 3 hours. And then I prefer to review the home inspection on site with the buyer right when it's done. So I like to go through everything because I think that's a kind of a bigger key. A home inspection report should be factual and boring, but reviewing it with them is where you can tell them this is very common. This is something to be expected. This might just take a slight adjustment, whatever comes more, helps them to understand it better.
That part, because it's not the same. Me reviewing it as a realtor, that's not my specialty, but I do understand a lot of the home inspections reports. But I love when the inspector reviews it with them, explains exactly what you mean. Because even though you put detailed information and descriptions of what you're inspecting in a picture of whatever you're calling out, it's not the same as you being there and showing them.
Absolutely. Yes, it's for sure.
Anything we didn't cover that is important for the consumer.
I would say in general, the things I hear, like it's not pass or fail. You can't fail a home inspection. We will find items, like I said before. So people to think that, it's a nice house, he won't find anything. And like you were mentioned before, repairs aren't required for the most part. It is informational, but your agent will guide you if there's maybe negotiations. Not your inspector. The inspector should never say if they would or wouldn't buy a house. They shouldn't. That's not their place. I say that because we have a limited view of what's happening. All I know is the house. I don't know if it's the neighborhood they want, how close it is to their work, the schools, and I've just heard people say that before. The inspector said I shouldn't buy the house. I'm like, why would an inspector say that? They don't.
They
very
should be
limited
listening to their
knowledge.
realtor.
Exactly. And so it's not pass or fail, and it's not for the inspector to decide. The inspector just gives the information.
And with those inspections, you also include estimate of what that might cost.
Yeah, we are able to do that. We have a third-party company who will look at our report and give an estimate, and they are ballpark figures because they haven't looked at the house and they're just looking at a report. But yes, we do have that available for buyers, and as long as they know it is a ballpark figure. But in terms of just another bit of information about repairs, it is illegal for a home inspector to repair anything that they've inspected. So termite companies can do that, but home inspectors cannot offer to repair anything that they have inspected.
And for the most part, as a realtor that recommends contractors or have my resources of plumbers, electricians, that I get out there right away to provide an estimate. But I do like when, let's say it's a very small item and I don't know how much that costs, but in my head, I think it's going to cost a lot. And then the inspector could say like, hey, that's like a $2 item. Like, say it's
Yes.
a plug or something very minor, but some buyers think it's going to cost a lot. And I do like when there's references. I mean, these are little things that get discovered during the home inspection, but sometimes in the buyer's head or mindset, it can be like really expensive when it's not. Yeah.
Absolutely. And to me, electrical kind of falls into that category a lot of times. Stuff that's called reverse polarity or GFCI protection. They actually don't cost that much money. They don't take that much time, but they are safety issues and they become issues. But yes, not everything is always really scary and really expensive. Even though it's
Yeah.
safety, even it could be simple to take care of.
What year should electrical been updated?
Okay, so yeah, so and it's not that it should have been updated, but what years can it start to become an issue? The 1960s, interesting years. 1970s dealt with a little bit of an issue with what's called aluminum wiring. The wiring's not an issue; it's that it's not connected. You can't connect aluminum wires to copper wires. So there's a section in the 1970s where there was this aluminum was being used because it's cheaper, but then aluminum doesn't conduct electricity as good as copper. So that was one issue in the 70s. You start to get into the 60s and you talk about electrical grounding and different issues that come up. You get to the 1950s and you just have older electrical. Like I said, sometimes you'll have a panel that could not handle today's electrical usage. Maybe it's
Right.
an older 2-bedroom, 2-bath house and one person lives in it and they're older and they have one phone and they don't plug hardly anything in. You get a family of 4 moving in and they all have cell phones and they all have laptops and they all are plugging stuff in and they want to add AC later. And now your electrical would have to be updated. So the 50s usually get into a possibility of the updating thing. It's kind of depends. It's not an absolute, but and then you get into really older systems, what's called knob and tube electrical wiring, which is just an older, not as safe electrical wiring. You could still use it, but a lot of times they splice into it wrong, or the wiring might be brittle now. And so, yeah, as you hit the 1960s and older, you just get into varying possible issues. But I would say more and more often people are upgrading them, and maybe it's already been upgraded
I was
because
just
people,
thinking,
yeah. So it's not an absolute just because it's old that you'll deal with that. And more they're becoming upgraded because we just use so much electricity than those homes used to use. So a lot of people have done it already.
and most of the time I do ask when I go into those older homes, I'll ask the seller's realtor, like, when was the roof updated? When was the electrical updated? Like a lot of times they have an answer for me or they'll get back to me, but we can kind
Yeah.
of have an answer up front, whether it's original or if it's been updated. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Absolutely. Have that information ahead of time.
So I know that every inspector will provide that home inspection report that all parties get a copy of it within 24 hours. The buyers should know that they can call you, right? If they have any questions, even though you reviewed the inspection with them that same day, I love that you're always open for a phone call, further explanation about something on the report that the buyer might still be a little confused about.
Yeah, absolutely. Reviewing it sometimes, especially if you talk about an older home, it could be a long report. There could be a lot of items, and the buyer's trying to absorb it all. And even though I went there and I stop and oh, do you have any other questions? Oh, no. I always tell them, please, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out because they definitely could have questions later. And it's
And
not a
thank you for
problem.
that.
What is the simplest fix someone can do?
In terms of like a seller preparing for a home inspection or
Yeah, a seller preparing for a home inspection.
so I would say one of the biggest things a seller could do is run the water at your sinks and look under the sink for leaks and run it for 5-10 minutes, not just turn it on and off. Flush the toilet a bunch of times and look behind the toilet and look at your ceilings. This sounds funny, but people don't look at ceilings. Even if you live in a house, you don't look at the ceilings. So look at your ceiling, look
That is
stains. I mean,
funny
look,
because
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say that like people don't, oh, I had that leak. And
Yeah.
Yes. And so, yeah, look at ceilings because we don't tend to look up at our ceilings and look under, run your water and look under sinks and just the things that you don't ever do unless you're looking for something. You don't look underneath there.
I know there's a lot more to know about home inspections. If anybody has any questions, where can they reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. They can call. Our business line is 09-989-5114. Website is langteam.pillartopost.com. Pillar to Post is a franchise, but I don't know the local territory, and we're the Lang Team. Well, that's my last name within Pillar to Post. So you can reach out, call, text. You can actually even go online and book a home inspection now if you like.
Are you on social media too?
Yes. My Instagram is Lang Team Pillar to Post, and on Facebook.
Can someone reach out to you? I want a home inspection, not selling, but just curious to know where my house stands at this moment.
Absolutely. Yes. Like I
Do you
said,
ever get
it'll
those type of
happen. Yeah, sometimes it'll happen when someone inherits a property because once again, they've never lived in it, and maybe it's an older home, and maybe it's something where they want to do repairs, they want to upgrade the home, but then they want to make sure if there's something they're not missing first. And so they'll
Right.
have us come through, do a home inspection, and then they're like, "Oh, there was a leak in the crawl space. I didn't know that. I better fix that before I renovate the kitchen." Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, thank
I
you,
would agree.
Joseph. I
Thank
know
you.
you're a busy man. And thank you for being here with us.
Thank
I
you so
appreciate
much.
it. Yeah.
Thanks for listening. Let's talk SoCal real estate.
If this episode helped you, be sure to subscribe, follow, and share it. And tune in for new episodes wherever you listen to podcasts.
And if you're thinking of buying or selling in Southern California,
Click the link in the show notes for your free buyer's guide. And if you have any questions, email us. We'd love to answer them all on the upcoming episodes.
Isabel Machrone and Rosa Ortiz are licensed real estate agents with Keller Williams College Park. Each Keller Williams office is independently owned and operated.
the information shared in this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and reflects our personal opinions and experiences. It should not be considered legal or financial advice.
We make no guarantees regarding accuracy, timelines, or results. We always recommend consulting with licensed professionals and doing your own research before making any real estate decisions.